What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Behind me is our REO Speedwagon, and if you guys caught last week's episode, we finally got this thing rolling around on its own power.
Brakes work.
And if you guys have been following along with the build from the beginning, you probably remember how this thing showed up. Not only was it in pieces, but it wasn't running. So we popped open the hood, we tore into that engine, and we got it running for the first time in a long time.
Alright.
Let's see. It helps when the ignition switch is on too. I know.
Let's see what happens.
Ready? No choke.
And once we got it running, we were able to make the thing look pretty. We stripped this thing down to the frame, we repainted a bunch of parts, and we built a custom wood bed for it. There are even a few details we didn't get to show you guys, like this impossible to find REO Speedwagon step pad, which Dave made here custom at the shop.
The owner brought us these cool OEM REO Speedwagon pads, I guess. But we're gonna be using them as our new step because our original steps were all rotted out and cracked and broken. We're gonna end up cutting this rubber down so that way it fits. And I'm gonna be fabricating a nice sort of brushed aluminum, polished something or other, maybe stainless. We'll see what material we got. I'll get it to match up to all these factory holes and put a little design in it, and then be able to secure down this rubber mat in the center so that way when you step, you're not gonna scratch up the paint, get your big boot dusty print all over like I've been doing. So let's go ahead and measure all these out, start designing something on the plasma, find some material, and then we're gonna get going.
And at the last minute, Frank, the owner of the truck, showed up with this REO Speedwagon hood ornament thermostat, which Brady got installed.
We got our moto meter, and I just stuck it in the radiator just to make sure the mercury content was still in there, and which we do. But one thing I'm not happy with is how this was put together, how it came. It looks like some of the gaskets are misaligned, and I want to try and turn this thing so we can actually get a good reading, so you can actually see it from when you're in the driver's position, because right now it's turned in a way where you really can't read what's going on. So we're going to take it apart and fix everything. When this thing came here, it had these little spacers for the bezels, and they were all crooked, as you saw. I pretty much took it to a heat gun and just tried to make it as circular as possible, so it's concentric on the glass. It's pretty much like this hard plastic. I thought it would be like a rubber. You could easily remold it, but you got to give it a little heat. So I'm going to do the same thing with this guy here. It's taken me a couple tries to get this thing aligned. The glass goes on here, you got your spacer or your gasket, whatever you would call it, but there's no groove for it to really sit in, so you got to kind of sort of get it centered and then put the bezel on and make sure it doesn't move around. Kind of like putting together a watch, I guess. I ended up kind of stretching this out a little more just so it would fit on this ridge here, so I think I'll have more luck getting it back in without it falling in and whatnot. I wasn't really liking how the back bezels had fit in. I actually ended up making a new piece to add on to what was already there, and it pushed the glass out so it fits much nicer in here. Next thing we're going to do is put this thing on, adjust it so it's clocked appropriately toward the driver.
And we couldn't exactly have Frank rolling around on that ratty old seat. So we went and we got a new backrest and bench seat all reupholstered for him. All right, now that we got the REO all wrapped up, this thing is ready to hit the road. We got Frank out here. Frank is the owner of this 1923 REO Speedwagon. We brought him out here to give a little history on the truck itself.
This thing in the late, I'm a kid and we're up in Boston. My dad is driving, he's doing a construction job out by Tufts University. And he's an old car lover. He looks out behind this frat house and he sees this thing, 1923 REO Speedwagon, sitting in a swamp behind the frat house. He runs over the frat house, asks them what they want to do with it. It broke down, they didn't know what to do with it. They pushed it into the swamp, they said, take it away. He gave him a couple bucks, brought it back to the house, and it's maybe like 1986, and we went to work on it. We broke it all down, the motor, the transmission, the body, tore it all apart, sandblasted everything, and started putting it back together about 3-4 months before I went into the military. So that was the first time that we did it. Then it's 20 odd years later, I'm out of the military, I'm living in Florida. I just moved my parents down to Florida from Massachusetts, and he told me he wanted to do it again. We got started on it. Unfortunately, my dad had a couple strokes and one after another. It was a year after that he handed me the thermostat that goes on top of the radiator. And as much as he could tell me, he said, I want you to take it and I want you to go back through it and get it done again. It took me a little bit, but I got a hold of Mikey, thank God, to make sure that we could do it and do it the right way. And he did an absolutely amazing job, better than anything that me and my dad did, which is saying a lot. And now it's 102 years later, and she looks this good.
Well, something that he missed on as far as the history of the truck that I kind of really enjoyed hearing about was the wood bed. And as much as it pained me to rip it apart, it was needed. But Frank, tell us a little story about how your dad built this wood bed originally.
This wood bed, that's a great story. This wood bed, my dad is looking around. He's looking for this certain kind of wood. He was a carpenter at the time. He's looking for a certain kind of wood, and lo and behold, he come across a fella says, hey, I know where there's a bunch of wood you can get it from. It's wood from the late 1800s that was made to build church pews. They were getting rid of the church pews. They said, come and get them, and you can have all the wood from them. So he went and got the wood from them, and that's how he fashioned the bed. It was something else. A lot of history on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in pretty tough shape. As Mikey went through it, we saw she was in tough shape. She was rot. If it wasn't the rot or the dry rot, it was the termites having a festival.
Well, you haven't driven it yet, so
I haven't.
I'm going to ask you the question as far as the looks of the truck. What's your favorite or your favorite details about the truck so far?
Without question, bar none, the color of the bed. We had done essentially like a clear coat before when we had done it before. And so it was a yellow wood or a white wood. And when we were putting it on together this time, Mikey came up with the idea. It's like, hey, let's try out a couple different colors. This is a standout color. This is phenomenal. I think that between the black and this red, and then there's some stainless, a lot of stainless in it. So there's a lot of beautiful contrast in there.
Well, I think it's time you take a drive in it, Frankie.
Let's take a ride.
I think we got to get Brady to start this thing up.
Yeah, we do.
I'm not doing it. Brady!
Brady, come on out. Right, because when I'm sitting up here, my first thoughts are of the last time that my old man was up here.
Wow. You're in fourth, huh?
Third gear.
How's it tracking?
It's good.
Yeah?
I mean, as good as 102 years old can go, right? The other thing that I love to think about is, when this thing was new, what was that guy looking at that was sitting here, you know? I love that kind of stuff. Yeah, this thing's a ton of fun to drive. As long as you don't fall out.
I know, I don't have a no handle on this thing. I got like the backrest here.
Yeah, right.
Give it a little gas when you shift. Go back and, yeah, there you go. Yeah, you gotta like clutch in, gas when you downshift.
Yep. Oh yeah, there's that gas station here. Forgot about that. You guys put lead additive into it?
We did, yes.
How often do you think I should do that?
I'm not sure.
Wing it, see what happens. Getting wild.
No front brakes. We got the gas cap on the right side, right? Yeah. This person's like, whoa, what the hell is that? It just needs 87, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's probably what, like a 6-to-1 compression?
Exactly. He used, my brother one time took her
like
and he put
the
eye test in and thinking he was doing the right thing. You know?
Yeah. Like I think a bicycle pump has a higher compression, right?
Right. Didn't you knuckle yourself one of the first times on that crank? Should give you a good whack, that crank.
A little bit.
My dad's pal thought he had it down pat, and he's like, oh, I can figure that out, you know, and he got on the front of it, and he got his head down there,
Yeah.
and he got cracked right in the mouth. Loosened teeth, didn't knock any teeth out, but loosened them for sure.
There we go. You feel like it's turning the motor?
Say it again?
You feel like it's turning the
No,
motor, or is it
nah,
just winding freely?
Yeah, it's just running free. That's odd.
Just crank it by hand. It's not on choke, is it?
Huh? No? She's on. She's on.
It's got gas.
It should start.
Should have just left it running.
Yeah. Now we know.
I wonder why.
I was gonna see him pulling down the driveway here, but such luck.
All right.
Been like, gotta be more than 30 years since I was behind the wheel of this thing, and I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome to be back up here again. It's like a memory dump that's going on right now. Sure enough, he went down to the cave. She broke down. He tossed a belt on it.
Oh yeah.
So he took off his.
He took his
He took
lap.
He took the belt, the leather belt off his
Yeah.
pants. Got her going and kept going. He was one of those guys that never stopped. He never stopped.
Yeah.
Forget he didn't believe that there was anything that he couldn't overcome. He was hot shit. Ace mechanic. Ace mechanic. I was a pump jockey. I was like 8 years old. Putting gas into people's cars. Those are the days when they'd run out, put gas in it, do the windshield, check the oil, and try and get it all done before you got to 10 bucks of gas in it, because that's how much they wanted. Nobody ever filled up their gas tank back then.
Like, wow. 4.4 volts. One. I think we gotta get a good charge on this battery. All right, so we did our test run, and what did you say? We shouldn't have shut the motor off. We just
should've
didn't
shut
run
it.
it long enough. We came back, we had to tow it back, and we only got 4 volts, which isn't enough to get enough spark.
So instead,
I cranked it over and over, went down to pant size. It was a great workout. So,
all pumped.
but
He's all
the first
pumped up.
drive, I thought it was great,
it
wasn't
was a great first drive.
Yeah.
It's fantastic first drive. That drive brings you, I haven't been behind the wheel of this truck in over 30 years. And let me tell you, just getting up there and running along with her, I got tons of memories of putting my aunts and uncles in this thing and driving around. putting a bunch of kids in the back of it and running down behind a couple of barns, running around in some antique shows. It's a lot. It's a lot. The most of it, the best part of it, my dad just passed. It's only a couple of months ago, and she looks like this and ran the way that she did. I'm thinking about him a lot, so it's a big deal. Thank you very much.
You're
I really do
welcome.
appreciate it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Thank you so
Sure thing.
much.
We'll obviously put a trickle charge on it, and we're even talking about maybe throwing an extra battery
That'd be a great
parallel,
idea.
so it has a little bit more cranking amperage. But for now, that is it for this episode. We are going to throw some juice, a charge on this battery. This way Frank you can drive it at the St. Patty's in Delray coming up.
Yep.
So we'll see it out there. So like us, subscribe to us, and check out all the other builds we have on our channel.